Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Sprain and I am a 4-H Youth Development Agent in Osceola County, Florida. Today we're going to work through a session called A Different Way of Thinking, specifically about belonging, and we're going to look at meeting youth needs. As we begin this session, I want you to think about a place where you feel like you belong. What does this place look like? What do you experience? Many of you may think about an environment where others show you that they care, where you are accepted as yourself, where you feel comfortable, supported, and loved. When you think about this place, do you think about how your needs are being met? Is there access to hydration and food? Do you have the ability to be active, exercise control, regulate your emotions, have your feelings validated? Are you safe? Do you feel safe? Does this environment provide consistency? Is this space cold, hot, comfortable? Does it disarm your anxiety and fear? These are many things that we don't normally think about when we think about a place or a space where we belong. However, all of these things can play a role in how we feel and interact with our environment. In this session, we will cover specific ways to promote belonging through meeting needs. As we start to address belonging, we need to look at two types of needs. They are the physiological and ecological needs. Our physiological needs are our biological needs. These are needs that are there to sustain our life. We also need to address sensory motor needs. Then we have our ecological needs. These are the needs that we get from our environment around us. Ultimately, when we're providing for basic needs such as water, food, a safe and structured environment, a need for physical activity, and the ability to teach regulation skills, these can all help meet youth needs and ultimately promote belonging. So the first way to meet physiological needs is actually very simple. The first way we're going to look at is hydration. Hydration is essential and super easy to provide. So the brain needs hydration to process appropriately. Dehydration can cause mental performance to deteriorate. So we want to provide water for youth when they arrive to encourage their brains to function at the top of their game. We want to avoid anything with caffeine because it can increase anxiety and ultimately hyperactivity. Another way to address a physiological need is to address blood sugar. It's important for youth and adults to eat something every 2 hours. Many of our youth and families are rushing to 4-H meetings. Some have not had time to grab a snack. But by providing a snack and water at the beginning of the meeting, this will help stabilize blood sugar. So we encourage having a few options for snacks that youth and adults can choose from. Sweet and chewy foods can be calming, whereas spicy, sour, and crunchy foods can be alerting. Also, we want to provide a counterbalance of options, such as sugary snacks and those with high protein, for example, like nuts. Also, yogurt can be a very good snack. These first two practices are very important for every child, but we need to be aware of those who have experienced food insecurity. Some of the youth who have experienced food insecurity may ask for more multiple times and even want to take some food with them. So this can be because in the past they didn't know when they might eat next. So when food is present, they want to take some with them or want to eat more, so they knew that they will always have food later. So I encourage being flexible with allowing youth to have multiple servings. If a parent is there, have the youth ask their parent if they can have more. If the parent isn't there, allow seconds and thirds if it's reasonable. By having water and a snack available for youth who have experienced trauma, specifically within food insecurity, it can help them know that you and the adults in their club care about them enough to meet their basic needs. So water and snacks, also please note, can be purchased using club funds, or your club can set up a rotation where each family is responsible for water and snacks each month. The third way to meet physiological needs is through physical activity. It's an easy way to meet sensory needs. So physical activity doesn't just have to be what we traditionally think of, such as running, jumping jacks, etc. It can be just providing an icebreaker activity that involves movement. By using icebreakers and activities with physical activity, youth can interact with one another to build what we call felt safety and can help reduce stress in the brain. In addition to physical activity, the fourth way to address physiological needs is through addressing individual sensory needs. So research shows that many youth in today's society have challenges with sensory processing. As a leader, you can help address these challenges in a few ways. The first is by providing tools youth can play with and use during a business meeting. So a few examples are Play-Doh, stress balls, fidget spinners, pipe cleaners, a small weighted blanket, or plush toys to squeeze and hug. These items allow a child to address sensory needs, which encourages their learning and attention. You'll want to check in with your 4-H agent because many of these tools can actually be purchased using club funds. So just please note that there should always be rules set in place for the use of these sensory tools. The 5th way to address physiological needs is through the practice of emotional regulation. So this practice is harder to incorporate into a 4-H environment compared to the previous practices that we've discussed. However, when it's implemented, it can have a huge impact on the youth that we work with. So regulation activities are important to help youth learn to check in with their bodies and to listen to what it's telling them. So the first place to start with regulation is for youth to determine how they're feeling. Are their hearts beating fast or they can't sit still? Then maybe they need to do a down regulation activity to find peace and comfort. Or are they feeling tired, slow, sleepy? Then they may need to do an upregulation activity to gain more energy. If members are alert and ready to participate, they may not need to do a regulation activity at all. Something to keep in mind is that everyone may be feeling differently, which is why it's important to offer a down regulation and upper regulation activity. Youth can then participate in the activity that best meets their needs and energy level. Next, we're going to cover a few examples of regulation activities. We're going to start with down regulation. So down regulation ultimately is to calm the body and the mind. There are 2 really good examples that I like to use. The first one is called grounding. There are many different exercises that you can use for grounding, but my favorite is the 5-4-3-2-1. The way that you do it is that you have youth, or even yourself, I do this quite frequently, is to sit in a comfortable position and do the following. You're going to identify 5 things that you see, 4 things that you hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And then you're going to take a few deep breaths. Now you can change these numbers however you want. There's nothing special to the 5-4-3-2-1 using sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. But generally, it's harder to find multiple things to taste or smell. So that's why we start with 5 things that you can see. Another down regulation activity is breathing exercises. And there's many different ones that you can use. One of my favorites is what we call a breathing square. So what you're going to do is, again, sit in a comfortable position. You're going to focus on breathing. You're going to feel your chest rise and fall. You're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds. You're going to continue this pattern until you feel relaxed. Now with youth, I recommend doing this for about 30 to 45 seconds. If you do too much of this, you could actually be moving the youth further down regulated than where we want them to be. The next activities are up regulation, and this is where we want to raise energy, raise focus, or raise attention. One of my ultimate favorites is what we call a mini dance party. You're going to play a fun song and you're going to have youth get up and kind of dance along. They can do whatever their body is telling them to do. If you don't have access, you guys can sing together as a group. Again, one thing with the mini dance party is you don't want to do it for too long. Again, that's the 30 to 45 seconds because you can actually, instead of moving up kind of 1 step in regulation, you can actually dysregulate with these activities. Another example is called chair push-ups. So while you're sitting in the chair, you're going to put your palms on each side of the chair and you're going to try and push up. So this gets the body moving and thinking together. Now that we've addressed physiological needs, we're going to look at meeting ecological needs. The first one is specifically targeting that safe environment. We're going to look at safe environment and felt safety. So providing a safe environment is something that you as a 4-H volunteer are trained to do well. When preparing for a club meeting or club activities, you identify potential areas of risk for our youth at the facility where you meet, along with the activities that you conduct. You make decisions based on what you know about risk management to keep youth and the adults present safe. In addition to what you do, the 4-H program provides a safe environment by screening you as a volunteer and providing training to keep youth safe along with other volunteers our youth work with. This, however, is not the only way to provide a safe environment. Another component of a safe environment is what we call felt safety. So felt safety, as defined by Dr. Purvis, Dr. Cross, and Wendy Lyons, Sunshine, is when a child not only knows that they are safe, but they feel safe. There are many situations in which we know that our youth are safe and they have nothing to fear. However, they may not be feeling this. So felt safety isn't just providing a safe environment as previously described, it's an environment where trust and relationships are built. So an example may be that a youth comes to your club meeting and it's a new environment. The AC might kick in. For someone who has been there and knows that the noise that they just heard, maybe the air conditioning kicking in, would feel calm and safe when that happens. However, if a youth has had previous experiences where a loud noise or they associate an air conditioning with something else, they may not feel safe right away when that AC kicks in. So it's just something to kind of be aware of. And this is where we really want to build that sense of trust and build those relationships, because that can help build felt safety for our youth. The third way of meeting ecological needs is creating a predictable environment. What you'll want to do is create an agenda for each meeting and follow it. This helps youth know what is coming next. At the beginning of the meeting, you want to read over the important parts of the agenda, such as starting with an icebreaker and a snack, the business meeting, and discussion. We will then end the meeting with an activity. Sometimes it helps to provide an agenda to parents ahead of time to go over with the child so their child understands what will be coming next. Also, you want to follow a similar agenda for all meetings. Topics and activities should change, but the structure should stay the same. This creates rituals. Therefore, when a youth comes to a 4-H meeting, they know what to expect each time. Another way to provide a predictable environment is to look at providing transitions. You're going to provide transitions from one activity to another. So for example, as you're getting to the end of your educational activity, let youth know that they have 10 minutes to finish up what they're working on. Then follow up with a 5-minute warning and a 1-minute warning. It is best to share what's next, such as in 5 minutes, we will clean up the art supplies and finish the meeting. These practices can help provide predictability for youth. This way, those who are fear-driven know what's coming next. So in addition to providing a safe and predictable environment, we also need to look at meeting sensory needs within the environment. So we want you to think about where you have your club meeting or your activities. Could your meeting location be too bright? Could it be too loud, too hot, too cold? You're going to want to adjust these potential challenges if you are able. It may be helpful to have lights dim and have a couple sets of earplugs handy if a child may need them. If you can't control the temperature of your meeting location, maybe encourage parents to bring sweatshirts or have their child dress in shorts or something cool if it's too hot. So after we address physiological and ecological needs, one thing that we really need to look into is how do we disarm fear? So there's a few ways that we can do this. The first is through play. We highly encourage you to be silly, laugh, and play games. Play is an amazing tool that can drastically change how trauma and how one's experience can impact them and their anxiety. The great thing about play is that it helps decrease the stress response in youth, especially with us as adults, which allows for better relationship development. It also helps to create felt safety, like we spoke of before, as it demonstrates that you as an adult mean no harm when you're interacting with youth. You can be trusted in the moment of play. Another way to disarm fear is to validate feelings. As adults, we sometimes have the bad habit of providing justifications for every emotion that a youth has. For example, if a youth is sad, we might say, "You'll get over it. Just try not to think about it." Unfortunately, this doesn't help to validate the emotions that our youth have. It also doesn't help disarm fear. A better response would be, "It's okay to be sad. I would be sad too if my friend wasn't here at the club meeting." We want our youth to be able to express and feel their emotions. A third way to disarm fear is to focus on the positive. Reassurance helps to lower stress in children and builds felt safety. It is important to use positive phrases. A few examples are, "You've almost got it," "Good try." In addition, reinforce good behavior with phrases like, "That is great eye contact," "That is good listening," "I'm so happy you're here today." Now that we've covered practices to implement to increase belonging within your club environment, I challenge you to go ahead and implement these practices. A resource that can be used is the example trauma-informed club meeting schedule that you can find in your handouts. This schedule goes through how to implement some of those practices throughout a typical standard club meeting. In addition to help you with implementation, I've also provided a trauma-informed practices checklist and planning worksheet. This will allow you to go through and kind of ask yourself some questions about what you currently do, maybe something you immediately want to implement, or you want to implement but you know it'll take some time. So you can kind of identify how many months it will take you to get there. And this is a good opportunity to kind of look at, are there any adjustments you can make within your club environment? Maybe what is one goal that you have about implementing these practices? So I challenge you to take some time after this session to really look at how you can implement some of these practices to support and increase belonging within your club. So in conclusion, I want to challenge you in your role as a 4-H volunteer, a parent, a teacher, to take what you've learned from this training and implement these practices to help youth belong by meeting their needs. We can all make a difference.